Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for participating in our business forum here today in the very first ever Summer Fest held in New Jersey, organized by Kollul and Anandamondi. So today I'm extremely fortunate to be able to speak with one of the most inspiring immigrant success stories, which is none other than the former CEO of a $104 billion asset company, Bank of the West, none other than Nandita Bakhshi. So welcome, Nandita. Thank you for doing this for us. So I just wanted to go over, in the interest of time, I'm just going to mention a few awards and recognitions. Um, she was in the Barron's list of the 100 most influential women in US finance, Forbes inaugural 50 over 50 in 2021, American Banker's most powerful woman in banking for the past 4 years in a row, as well as the #1 woman to watch in banking, San Francisco Business Times most admired CEOs, and the list goes on and on. So my very first question, Nandita, is tell us a little bit about where you grew up, who were the strong influences in your upbringing, like were you one of the brilliant ones who knew exactly where you'll be, or was it a little bit different from that?
Let me see if I can work. Does this work? No. Okay. All right, no problem at all. Thank you, Panchali, and I recognize both of us are sitting and talking while you all want to hear Shamiji. So our apologies, but let's have fun while we're doing it. Kolkata born, brought up in Delhi, back to Kolkata for university and college. And liberal arts, though, nothing to do with finance or marketing. Biggest influence was father, who decided what I was going to study, which college I would go to. I got presidency, but I had to go to Bribon, Karota Barir Kache chilo bole. And even at 95, he would ask me what was my bonus this year. And if I made so much money for the company, why was my bonus not compensating? And I would tell him, Je, amake, my husband doesn't ask me these questions. Why do you continue to ask? So obviously, he was a big, big influence. And while I was growing up, I never thought I would be like him. But if you ask me in a vulnerable position, I would say I'm probably more like him than my mother, who couldn't care less about the job, the title, the khali jiggesh korto, bhalo achish, shusto achish. And that was the difference. And so two influences, but more towards dad than mom.
I know you mentioned before that you were an accidental banker, which I found very interesting. So you were recently the CEO of Bank of the West, and you have reached a position where we all know, like when you're at such a senior level, how lonely or how the air is so rarefied there. So my question to you, Nandita, is how did you prepare yourself for such a position? Or what defines success to Nandita? Like, how did you measure it for yourself? Please, thank you.
Yeah, so I started out as a part-time teller, $4.25. I have a master's degree, and the guy looked at me and said, you're overqualified for the job. And I said, you're not paying me more, so why do you care if I have a PhD or a master's? So yes, started as a part-time teller. Never thought I'd be in banking because my degrees are in history and international relations. So United Nations would have been great for me, but we were in Albany. And stayed in banking because, believe it or not, and even because with the bank failures that we've had on the West Coast, it is a good profession. It propels the society. It gives loans to small business. It creates jobs, and I think that became evident during pandemic. So while I didn't want to be a banker, I stayed in banking because I fell in love with the profession. And I've worked at many, many different companies because when you're 10,000 miles away from your home birth country, Why do you care, right? So I've lived in Albany, in Columbus, Ohio, in Los Angeles, in Stuttgart, Germany, London, in Boston, in Seattle, in New Jersey, and now I live in New Jersey, but I work out of San Francisco. So I've had a very, very crazy life, and I think I've enjoyed the challenge, the velocity that comes with it. I thrive on it, actually. I was in London yesterday speaking to 50 female CEOs in EMEA, and that was an amazing experience. I would say success. I think it's a very, very personal topic. Most people define success as the title, the amount of money you make, the corner office. Of course, those are parts of success, or the fact that I was able to take an $8 billion bank, book value, make it to 13 billion and sell it for BNP Paribas at 16, gave them a big fat check. That's success too, right? But I would say I probably today, and I would say my definition of success has evolved over time as I have evolved as a person and become more confident in my own skin. I define success as followership today. The fact that somebody, day before yesterday while I was in London, wrote on LinkedIn that 2 years ago he walked the Pride Parade with his CEO, and the fact that she was carrying the banner brought tears to his eyes. I'm actually heading out to San Francisco at 6 in the morning tomorrow to reach there at 9 so that I can be part of the Pride Parade. I think it is about the issues you stand for. I think Charlotte mentioned this earlier. I think the gap between intent and impact is being shortened. And the new generation, so many of us are sitting here, our kids, want to have an organization that believes in values and purpose. And I would say that we have been known, BNP and Bank of the West has been known for its ESG policies, for its diversity policies, and we attract both customers and employees to come and be part of the organization just because of who we are. I think that is success.
Very, very nice. So Nandita, I've had the privilege of knowing you as a close friend. I've always admired your stability, your calm assurance, your take-charge personality, but always with the utmost of humility. So they say the values of a person is what they abide by when no one's looking. So my question to you is, what are your values as a leader, as an incredible human being, and of course as a woman?
You know, I would say humility, I think that's very important. Because without that, you get hubris, and you make decisions that are bad for the organization and bad for the teams. And having started as a part-time teller and really come up one step of the time, I keep saying I can be a teller again, I just know how the bank runs.
Wow.
Right? And which has allowed me to be able to connect with the branch people, with the operations people, with the product managers. Because when you walk in as an Indian woman, not with a Harvard degree, they look at you and say, hey, can you do a regression analysis? Can you understand treasury? Can you do, how would you manage interest rate risk? Well, guess what? We can do that too, right? So the values, I think it's very, very important. And I would say at Bank of the West, I had a very eclectic group of direct reports who all came from different places, but they had very similar values where we didn't take ourselves too seriously, where we were very egalitarian, we could make fun of ourselves, we spoke 20, 25 languages come together. So I think humility is what defines a person, and I've often seen CEOs go the wrong way because of their arrogance and hubris.
So So one of the things that I researched about you, which I found fascinating, is what you advocate for women and women leaders is the rule of the thirds, where one third of the job could be your comfort level, one third could be a stretch, and one third could actually be like white-knuckled terror. Could you expand a little bit on that? I found it very interesting, and I wish I knew that when I was younger.
I would say that as again, so many of you do this every day, so I'm not unique at all in this regard. You really have to lean in, take risks. We've traveled 10,000 miles from home. We've left our families, our friends there. So, आएंगे तो कुछ करेंगे तो ज़रूर, है ना? So one of the things that I've taken on, which has helped me, I'm not saying it should help everyone, is take a job that I feel comfortable. So I can do that part in my sleep. So that gives me the confidence, because women usually feel they need to have 110% of the competency and the abilities before they raise their hands for a job, by the way.
Exactly.
Right? So 1/3 comfortable, 1/3 stressful, where you're stretching yourself. And 1/3 would be absolutely white-knuckle terror, when you have no idea. And I think Shaunud said this earlier, where he called the guy and said, I'm not feeling very bright, and I have a board meeting tomorrow. And he said, what do you think you're going to do? The chairman's going to do the board, not you. I think that is where you grow, right? And if you ask me, what have been those two jobs that have been mostly, not a third, but maybe 70% in that category, I would say the first one is my teller job. Green as green can be, coming from India, never seen a dollar, never worked on a computer, green screen computer, nevertheless. And then being a CEO. While that was a very, very fulfilling job, loved every part of it, dealing with the French, another story altogether, but that was a white-knuckle terror, at least initially, the first few years.
So nice. Your story is incredible. So in the interest of time, I'm going to wrap up, and this will be the last question I pose to you. So we're so proud of you, especially as the former CEO, and the phenomenal deal that you orchestrated this year in February, the sale of Bank of the West to Bank of Montreal for a whopping $16.3 billion. So do you want to give us some key messages about the anatomy of a successful merger in American banking?
Yes, actually, if the regulators would have it, banks are not going to merge. They can fail, but they can't merge. Don't tell the regulators I said that, though. There's no media in the room, right? But a lot of deals haven't gotten approved lately. Ours did. And we are on our way to ever have a very successful integration, not just technology, because most people focus on technology. I focus on people and culture. Over 65% of my team members have a job, and a job they want. The rest of them are going to be kept till the end of the integration so that the risks are mitigated. And then some of them are picking up their cash and leaving. Others are pursuing other opportunities. So no, it has been a very, very successful merger so far, and I know it'll be a good one going forward. In fact, American Banker, this is a banking magazine, interviewed a senior executive from BMO, the bank that bought us, and me. And the question this lady asked us is, we are told that if there are senior executive women working for a firm, they're usually at each other's throats. You seem to like each other. What's the story here? I said, that's a complete myth started by men, that we don't like each other when we are working in senior positions. That is not true, and you can see this firsthand. But no, very, very proud. In fact, somebody asked me, I was in London yesterday, as I mentioned, somebody asked me, what are you most proud of? What is your legacy? And I would say my legacy, having worked at Bank of the West, BNP Paribas, for the last 7 years, my legacy is that I am leaving a bank stronger, more agile, more profitable, more productive, can have fun, and dynamic, more entrepreneurial as we believe that. And in fact, I was on the stage with the Aviva CEO, Amanda Blank, and she said, if I can retire and say I did that, that would be success.
Thank you so much, Nandita. We're so, so proud of you. So now I'll open the audience.
Do we have time, or
I think we have yeah, we do, just a few more minutes.
Okay.
So I'll open the audience to a few questions.
Yes, sir?
So we saw a lot of bank failures in the financial crisis. Why do you think we saw again so quickly another wave of bank failures?
Would you kindly stand up, please?
I can repeat the question.
Okay.
Yeah, so the gentleman was asking, there have been bank failures all on the West Coast, by the way. Sorry about that. And what happened and why did we see that after 2008? And I've talked to several politicians and regulators, and they said, what happened? You guys were constantly telling us how solid the banking industry was, how strong you were, and there it goes, like, house of cards. And what happened was the institutions that were in trouble were all had a very interesting business model. They were more monoline versus a well-diversified bank like Chase or BNP or Bank of the West. So it was more of a business model that was in trouble versus the banking industry that was in trouble. And again, it did have a domino effect. And the other thing I would say, as a colleague in the industry, is they did not manage interest rate risk. You don't hedge for that long a period when you know interest rates are going to go up. Your securities are underwater. The third thing I would say is that while regulation was there, oversight from the regulators were lacking. Yeah.
Nandita, a follow-up question on the last one. What would be the right mix of regulation and risk-taking in the financial sector?
I thought we had covered that with Dodd-Frank. Believe me, with 300 pages of a book that was written, we were all kind of going, what happens is you shudder to think, again, this is hindsight's 2020, Monday morning quarterback talking. How does the management, the risk organization, the board approve of that type of a risk, interest rate risk? Don't want to get too technical here, but I think it was a failure on multiple counts. I, as a banker, would say, we don't need more regulation, we need better oversight.
So you mean the risk management function needs to be strengthened?
Yeah.
Where we talk about the hold to maturity and
Correct.
hedging.
Absolutely. The fact that there was no risk leader there for 6-8 months was not a good thing either.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sue, yeah?
Can you tell us a little bit about your work with Grameen?
Yes, that is a work that I absolutely enjoy. So Shucharita asked the question. I am on the board of Grameen America. Grameen is an institution you may know was founded by Muhammad Yunus, and this is the American chapter of Grameen. We lend, it's microfinance, I'm sure you all know microfinance. We lend to women only, anywhere from a couple of $100 up to $5,000, maximum $15,000. It's done without any credit check. No credit check, no credit history needed. All you need is a driver's license. And 80 to 90% of the time, the money is being used for a small business by the female borrower, and it really helps the organization. It helps the society, right? And I would tell you, I am so proud of that organization. I know Muhammad Yunus had a brilliant concept and put it to life, but I think what Andrea Jung has done, and Onishua met Andrea at a JLO event in Los Angeles, but what Andrea has done, she used to be the CEO of Avon. She's brought that smarts to a nonprofit organization, and she runs it brilliantly, where McKinsey Bezos gave us $25 million. Another investment is coming in with $150 million. If you want to know of a nonprofit run well, that is doing good every day in the country, that is Grameen. In fact, Muhammad Yunus very affectionately tells the story that he wanted to bring the Grameen chapter in 2008, 2009, right after the crisis. And as he was talking to people in New York, the investors and all, they said to them, Professor Yunus, you don't understand. America is a rich country. And he said, I understand America is a rich country, but not every American is rich. And that's what their organization is doing. It's tremendous work.